everybody. Welcome back to our podcast, Bite of Mind. I'm Rachel Robinson.
And I'm Ilkay Bashesky, and we both are registered dietitians based in Midwest.
Today, we have a topic that we think will tie in really well to our past two episodes, kind of a little bit of a series here. So, we are going to be talking about motivation today. I think that's something that we often all struggle with, how to create motivation, how to stay motivated, and what do we do when we're not feeling motivated. If you are interested in our previous episode, our last episode 2 weeks ago, we did on stress reduction. And the previous one we did on setting SMART goals and how to be successful in that. So if you're interested in checking out either of those, feel free. And yeah, so stick around for today's episode. I think it will be good.
Yeah. So we thought that, with the past 2 episodes that we did, this one would tie everything really good. It's that time of the year, and that's when we've decided to start our, podcasts, and we were like, "Why not? This is something new and exciting for us, and let's start with something that makes us exciting, setting up goals, setting up, or feeling the motivation. What are some of the, obstacles along the way, like stress around making changes in your life. So we've covered that in previous week and or previous episode. And right now we're gonna dive into motivation.
Yeah, motivation's one of those things that I think everybody struggles with, regardless of whether you have mental health conditions or not. But I think it's especially, pertinent to those of us with like depression or ADHD when there can be a lot of shame around having lack of energy or lack of motivation to do things. And it can be
Yeah.
really hard to go, how do I motivate myself to even make the changes that are going to make me feel better? Or that are gonna
Yeah.
help me manage these conditions.
I feel like sometimes like we wait for it to come naturally too. Like that's another thing
Mhm.
that I think this topic is going to help us to understand how can we manage it and make sure that it's not gone all the time, but it is more sustainable. Just like everything that we have been talking, how can we have the balance and achieve the balance in this too?
Mhm. So we got some tips and tricks today for how can we help ourselves create motivation. You've
Mhm.
set that goal. You've known how to set yourself up for being able to be successful in your goal. And now how are we going to generate that energy and motivation to pursue the goal?
Yeah, I think we can I can start by saying because this is, like, the point that I like to make to everyone during my sessions too, understanding your why. So, usually when we're going through different topics, whether it's PCOS, like polycystic ovarian syndrome, whether it's type 2 diabetes, kidney disease, you name it. Sometimes they come in with a lot of complex, conditions, and I like to explain them why they should eat what they should eat. And maybe "should" here might not be, a very good word because later on we will see what
Mhm.
kind of impact it can make to our,
What's gonna
motivation.
support them the best?
Yes. But, like, yes, what's gonna support you the best and then, why you should do those things. So I like to explain that and because that's how my brain operates, and a lot of the time I feel like people are tend to make better progress when it comes to understanding why you're doing what you're doing. So,
Mhm.
understanding the reason why, whether it's a goal that you want to set for yourself, whether it's like losing weight. Why am I going to gym 3 times a week? Well, because I want to improve my muscle mass because I've been feeling weaker than usual 'cause this was something that I was telling Rachel just before we begin, because 'cause I've been feeling like I haven't been going to gym as much, and I'm like, "Yeah, I wanna improve my muscle mass," and that's my why I'm going there to improve my muscle mass. Is there any example that comes into your mind?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when we were talking earlier too about the gym, you made a good point of talking
Yeah.
about you felt really weak in your day to day. And then that was more of your motivation for why you wanted to
Mhm.
gain that muscle is that you felt like, so I could carry my bag into work and not feel tired from it, or
Yeah.
I could walk up all those flights of stairs. So it's like, what is your why in the way of like, that self-love or the motivation for things
Yeah.
for me. Like I had gotten back into going to the gym because I also like to be able to maintain the fitness
Yeah.
levels so that I can do the things that I want in the day. I think For lately, actually for me on the fitness side, one of the big motivations for me with maintaining fitness is because I want to age well. I want to be active as an older adult, and that comes from like creating this base, right, when you're young.
Mhm,
But yeah, finding that mind and the why and the self-compassion around that, and making sure that the why that we have isn't because we hate ourselves. Because
mhm.
when you're feeling low motivation, you're not going to want to do something because you hate yourself. You're going to want to do something because you love yourself
Mhm.
and you want to become a better version of yourself. So,
Absolutely. I wanna give you an example on this. When somebody comes into me and they say, "I look so ugly and I'm so fat and then I wanna fit in my clothes," I'm like, "Okay, let's change the language around that first, you know, because this is not good that you're saying. Because imagine you wanna reach out to a goal, okay? You're your own coach or cheerleader, whatever you like to think of, and then your coach yourself is bashing on yourself constantly. It's not coming from a place of love. Instead, it's coming
mhm,
from a place of like, "I'm disgusted by you and you need to change so I can love you," which in the sentence, you is you yourself. Like, like we have that relationship with ourselves at the end of the day. And
mhm.
that's where self compassion comes into a really important place, I think, because it doesn't allow us to be more sustainable if we're not compassionate enough. It just fades away
Mhm.
in a couple of weeks because you already don't like yourself. Like you're just saying, "You're fat, you're disgusting, and I need to change you. Otherwise, I'm not going to love you."
'Cause it also comes into play when we talk later, or, I mean, I could talk a little bit now too on the shame aspect. Like, when we're feeling unmotivated to do things and we're shaming ourselves for, "Oh, you're so lazy, you're not doing this," or whatever, you're not gonna help yourselves build motivation too if your
Mhm.
why is because you hate yourself, right?
Mhm,
Because if you're
mhm.
telling yourself, "You're so lazy, you're not doing this, and you have to do this because otherwise you're hideous and you're ugly," or whatever, that's not, that's going to kill motivation faster than anything. So it's being able to reframe out of the self-love, reframing that instead of "I have to do this," I get to do this because it's going to help me fulfill, in the sense of I'm making dietary changes. Maybe if I have a different disease like diabetes or PCOS or something, right? I get to make these changes because they're going to help support me feel better and manage this condition, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm doing this because I love my body and want it to function as best as it can.
Yeah, that's where I was saying, like, I like to explain the why, 'cause, when we talk about, like, diabetes, for example, we talk about how the pathway goes and then how insulin resistance in the first place maybe caused that, and I also like to point it out too, with these conditions, some of these conditions, we see, like, genetic factors as well. There are also, like, maybe some lifestyle factors that are playing role. But the reason why I like to explain that why of the eating pattern so that maybe we can start establishing a new way by knowing the why of it. So
Mhm.
that's why we like to do that. And same thing goes for your day to day life. Having a good purpose and good mission at the end of the day is going to make you feel more connected to your goal.
Mhm. Kinda getting away from thinking about kind of the goal setting side of things and the why is what happens when we have our why, we have our goal, and we know what we need to do, but we really are just feeling that freeze state or that lack of motivation in that state. Like I get home from work and I just sit on the couch and now I'm rotting on the couch because I have no motivation to do anything else. Yeah, I think we all are pretty guilty of that. Some tips that we have for helping with that. So this kind of goes back to dopamine. We talked about this in our ADHD podcast, which was our very first one. So if you're interested in that, you
Mhm.
can listen to that. Talking about the importance of dopamine in our brain. Like dopamine is kind of the neurotransmitter that helps motivate us and have reward and feel a sense of reward when we're doing things. And one of the ways that we can help boost the dopamine is by starting with tiny actions, small little
Mhm.
steps. So if I need to fold laundry, for example, instead of telling myself, "Oh my god, like I have so much laundry to have to wash and fold," setting a 5-minute timer, going, "I'm just going to fold as much laundry as I can in this 5 minutes, and then that's fine. I don't need to finish it. If I don't finish it, that's fine. 5 minutes, that's all I need to do." Once
Mhm.
you start that small action of doing 5 minutes of folding laundry, or maybe deciding you're going to only fold 3 items, or washing dishes and only going to wash a couple dishes. Once you start, that dopamine kicks in and it reinforces the action. And now your motivation is going to increase. I see this with people too, where they decide, like, "Ugh, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm just going to drive to the gym. I don't have to go in the building, but I'm just going to drive there." And they drive there. Well, now you're at the gym, you're in the parking lot, and you're like, "Okay, now I actually kind of feel like maybe I'll just go inside and maybe
Yeah.
I'll spend like 5 minutes in there." And now pretty soon, half hour later, you're done with a workout. So it's
Yeah.
starting those small steps.
Kind of like, related to that, I feel like reducing the size of the task is also another thing connected to this. Like, I want everybody to recognize that it is not selling yourself short. It's actually like kind of making sure that you are slowly opening up a space for that activity too. If you start looking from that perspective, so like as the time goes, you're going to start enjoying more and more. Like with the gym, we're always using the same example, but sometimes even setting up a goal of like 15 minutes walks. We do that like in our sessions. We set up 15-minute goals sometimes. We say, okay, because
Mhm.
what it matters is we want to make sure that you hit that goal and you get that motivation from it and you sustain your motivation as you're continuing with it. Which tying back to the SMART goals, that's actually the main goal with the SMART goal is to sustain the motivation throughout your journey.
I think, yeah, it's like shrinking the goal until it feels doable.
Mhm.
The brain loves finishing what it likes to start. So it's
Yeah.
when we can make that task small enough, it makes it easier to start completing those things.
And also, like,
Mhm.
reframing the thing. In our previous episode, I was kinda mentioning about the fact that, this instead of saying "should" or "I need to," maybe switching that to "want."
Yep, exactly. Yeah, reframing it and then picking smaller starts to it. And it's like that's still a success. Like we can celebrate the small wins and the small successes. It doesn't need to be an all or nothing. Like if you usually leave your laundry to rot on your floor room after it's clean for a week, usually, and now this week you actually put away half of the laundry, that's still a success. It's moving
Yeah.
in the right direction.
Gonna, like, sustain the motivation too at the end of the day. So, like, you'll get to do this more often as it's giving you more of the like, that dopamine, right after you complete your task.
Yeah, and then I think also being able to create like uh kind of little anchors, I guess, to the activities that we're doing can help us to honestly kind of have that positive reinforcement side of things. Like Pavlov's dog, he would ring a bell every time he fed the dog. And so then pretty soon, when you just ring the bell, the dog's salivating because it's like, ooh, food. So it's like creating those connections too in our life, like having a very specific playlist that you like to listen to, cleaning or cooking, having those habits that are attached to some sort of like sensory aspect, a can't lighting a candle and then cleaning, or listening to music and going and working out like a specific playlist, having a really specific show or something that you like watching when you're cleaning or cooking or working out or whatever it is. You're attaching those habits in your brain so that you're primed for it, right? Like every time I want to clean, I like to have a specific playlist. I put it on and then suddenly I'm like, now I'm in the energy to like clean because
Yeah.
that's usual.
It's just giving you almost like to the point that something that pleases you is attached to that task, so you're, like, wanting to do more kind of a
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, it's like pairing a boring task with a dopamine boosting activity, right?
Mm.
So like another I think thing that I like to do is I have a YouTuber that I like watching a lot, and they put out episodes every day. So it's like every time I go to cook dinner, I like to put on that podcast or their podcast or YouTube show, and I like
Yeah.
to watch that while I'm cooking. And that's like a normal thing, but that makes then cooking enjoyable for me because I'm like, oh, this is the time of the day I get to watch this 20-30 minute video that I watch, every
Yeah.
day, every weekday,
Like,
So,
I wanna add something over here too, because like, this reminds me of the time I think, like, I've been telling you that I wanna get back to gym, right? Like, I shared you my why too, like, I feel
mhm,
weaker. I feel like when I do grocery shopping, carrying my groceries becomes like a big challenge for me. I think I
mhm.
was doing better before, but anyhow, um, there's this thing that I was doing when I was going to gym. I was watching news all the time. So, like, I would just watch and Guys, you guys, not any news. We're talking about Turkey's news, okay? Like, pretty crazy. People are being
It's a way
jailed
to
every
make yourself
single
never it's a way to make yourself never wanna go to the gym again.
Yes, maybe that's why I'm not going to gym anymore. I'm gonna start watching my favorite, like because news YouTubers are, like, very popular thing in Turkey, so kinda was
Mhm.
feeling like, "Oh, I'm catching up with my country," but now I'm actually moving that time in the later in the day, to be honest, because you told me this before. I was just telling you, I've been watching news in the morning, and it just bumps me out all day long, and you're like, "You should watch that later in the day." So,
Yeah, do
yeah,
it at night.
never watch things that are, like, series, videos, criminal shows, no. It might put you in stress, and you might feel horrified,
I
and
don't
you
know, some
might
people
want
really like those criminal shows.
yeah, some people do, they get, like, really enjoyment, but I don't know, to be honest, if
It's
it
just
would be
making sure you're pairing it with pleasurable experiences.
fun then. I need to find a fun, like, I don't know, like, shows or something like that, or fun YouTube
Mm.
videos maybe to go watch it.
All right. So now, like, once we've generated motivation, right? How do we sustain motivation? What are things that we can do for that? My favorite way, and this is probably just because I'm so weirdly organized with things and I love to have visual representations, is creating like an actual visual like board with like your goal, reaching your goal on it. Like you could use a whiteboard. I've printed out pieces of paper before with like when I was marathon training with like a training block schedule that I could then color in every time I did that workout, but it sat on the wall, doing fun things like that, a little coloring sheet for people do
Mhm.
it with like bullet journaling, right? Where you make like your graphs for like keeping track of your money as you've saved or whatever. But
Yeah.
having like a visible motivation.
A lot of apps offer that too, and, like, there
Mhm.
are different softwares right now that you can use too for, like not softwares, I guess that also would be considered app too. So you can use, like, a bunch of different, templates for your goals, and then you can see visually how you did it, like, throughout the days too. So that visual is supposed to support you during that time to be like, "Okay, yeah, it's that time of the day. I go put my check box, whatever. I check my checkbox,"
Mhm.
I guess that's how you'd say. Yeah, like, absolutely, I find them very beneficial too. I kinda use them mostly personally, I'd say during the day, like, small to-do lists, and that, like, gets me going. As I'm checking all the boxes, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I can go back to the next one. I can go to the next one, and then the other one," and I feel like I can organize my day better.
Yeah, seeing like the small wins throughout the day, like help you stay
Mhm.
motivated, helps remind you why you started. Yeah. I love like yeah, there's totally apps and stuff for that too, like you mentioned. I'm just old school and like like paper and pencil.
Yeah. I love paper and pencil too, like, don't get me wrong, but some people I also feel, sometimes I am, very lazy to just keep, like, doing the same thing because it takes some time to prep that too. So if you download
Yeah.
an app, like, I'm using Notion, so there are, like, bunch of drafts over there that you can create, and you can make
Yeah,
it
not
pretty cool.
sponsored.
Yeah, they're not sponsored. If they wanna be our sponsors, they're more than welcome to, but I like that app, yeah.
Do they even give notifications for you too?
No, not
Cuz
necessarily, but you can
okay, cuz I think
literally
there's some apps out there that do
yeah,
too.
this one is not. This one is like, imagine preparing like a paper template. You can go
Mhm.
prepare that in an online world kind of thing, almost like Canva, but
Mm.
for planning. With Canva, you also do a lot of like design things. And Canva, if you want to be our sponsor too, you're more than welcome as well.
But if if any of you guys actually have apps, I'm curious. I'm always interested in learning like what different types of things are out there. So if you guys
Yeah,
have any apps and stuff that you use for tracking these things, let us know because I love to have like lists of those things, when you're working with clients and stuff as well to be
yeah,
able to pass along cuz some things can be useful for some people that and can be useful for others and not for others. So it's nice to just
yeah.
have variety in different ways of
It's a
tracking
human
things.
experience at the end of the day, and as dietitians, yeah,
Mhm.
we try to learn as much as we can, but sometimes it's, like, based on your daily experiences. I like to listen to my patients for that exact reason, because like, if they tell me, "Oh, there's this thing that I'm doing," I'm like, "Oh, what is that?" Like, share it with me so I can actually share it with another person too, if it worked for you.
Mhm.
Why not?
Yeah. Kinda going back to sustaining motivation too, just making sure that we're building time in for rest, like throughout the week. I think a lot of times when we have goals, we try to go, go, go. We set really high goals. So, again, if you're interested in like how to set realistic goals that are going to last a long time, go check out our episode on SMART goals. But it's making sure that we are taking the time when we do need rest, if we're sick, that recognizing in our bodies this is a time for rest, but then also planning for days when we have little to no motivation. If we have a goal of wanting to eat at home during the weekday because you're trying to save money or be healthier or whatever, if you know that some days you're going to have no motivation days, it's great to try to plan for what can I do in those situations where I don't have to make like a full on meal. What's something I can easy have in the home?
Yeah, I think, we just, it's just a misleading thing. We just feel like once we get the motivation, it's gonna stick with us and it's never gonna go away, but we're human being, we're a living organism. I like to remind that to everybody. Things happen to us, and
Mhm.
some days are gonna be hard, and so like a wave kind of a thing, and it's finding the balance even on those times and knowing that, yeah, it's gonna be hard for me this week. I'm not gonna feel very motivated, maybe because of XYZ that's about to happen at work, that you have to go through an audit maybe, there are weeks that goes like that, or you have to go through a really hard times with your family. Like, sometimes it's not in your hand and you're not gonna be able to sustain your motivation too. Embracing those days is very important. Embracing your failure is very important too, because it protects your self-compassion for yourself, so you
Mhm.
can maintain that self-compassion even on those days.
Yeah. Expecting daily discipline is really unrealistic.
Mhm. But unfortunately, what I wanna share with you is, like, about this, and I wanna get your opinion on it too. Unfortunately, on social media, sometimes we look at these people, they look like they're perfect or whatever, and I wanna reflect that at least to my patients, like, we're not perfect, we're human beings. And,
Mhm.
like, it's not gonna be those, like, stoic pages, like, you get on it and then you do no matter what, like, everything can be bad for you, but you still get up and do it kind of a thing. And sometimes
And even
that doesn't
if
really help.
Yeah. And even if the person on social media is posting a realistic, situation in their day, you're only seeing a small percentage of their whole day too. You may only be seeing 1%, 2%, or whatever, and you're not seeing their everyday either. So that may have been realistic on that specific day for 5% of their day, but that's not what every day looks like. So it's important to
Mm.
not compare ourselves to others. Everyone's different. Everyone has different struggles. Everyone has different mental health issues. Everyone has different energy levels, different
Mhm.
genetics, everything. So it's finding what works and what's best for you and having compassion on yourself and recognizing that the world isn't black and white, right? It's
Yeah,
gray.
I wanna point it out, like, some of these people, it's their job, like, let's just
Mhm,
remember that. Rachel and I are already working in, like, other jobs too, and I can tell from my own perspective as well that it is hard. You have to maintain, like, your livelihood. You need to continue to make money and everything, and some of these things are their jobs, and they're gonna be more precise with that, like, more than you
mhm,
do, because you already accomplished a job by working 40 hours and somewhere else, that was your job, and you're on top of that trying to add something to your life. So it's important to
mhm,
recognize those things to, again, boost your self-compassion, to understand this is not to make an excuse for yourself. Like, it's
mhm.
called being realistic, and sometimes people are, like, thinking, "Well, that's an excuse. You can create a time for it." Well, no. When you're working 40 hours a week, it's hard.
But again, I love that you also bring up the point too, like you're not making an excuse for yourself either, because change is going to be hard and we do need to embrace the uncomfortable. Our bodies love
Mhm.
homeostasis. So, it is sometimes it will be uncomfortable to make these changes. And sometimes we do have to do things that are uncomfortable, even when we lack the
Mhm.
motivation in order to achieve the goals that we want. But just being realistic with ourselves too, that we can't expect perfection every day and every minute of every day. It's just not
Yeah,
realistic.
that's what happens,
um,
absolutely.
yeah. And kind of going along with that as well too is trying not to put all that responsibility on yourself for every little thing. Like you can change the environment to help you in these situations, to help you stay motivated or stay on top of your goals as well. So we talked about this a little bit in our ADHD podcast. If you struggle like with someone with ADHD, if you're struggling remembering to eat throughout the day and you go long hours, keeping snacks nearby you is a way that we can change the environment so that you're more likely to remember, oh, I should probably eat a snack. I haven't eaten in 5 hours. So We can do little things to change our environment to work for us as well. So then kind of moving on from that, so some tips for if you are struggling to do the thing or struggling with motivation. One thing that we can do is using kind of a body first motivation. So if your brain is a little too overwhelmed to even think about doing a task right now, especially if you're stuck in kind of a freeze state, maybe you're got home from work, now you're on the couch and now you can't move, just trying like a small little thing to break that freeze response, drinking a glass of water, eating a quick protein snack, maybe just stepping outside for a couple minutes, having what do they people call it, sunflower time. Have you seen that online at all, where they're like, people will be like, I'm just gonna go stand in the sunlight and have my sunflower time
Yeah.
and take in my sun. And it's like it just helps break that freeze response and gets you,
Yeah.
something healthy, some sun on your skin, right?
Yes,
Um
absolutely. I mean, it's scientific too. At the end of the day, vitamin D is something that we need for like to sustain our health too. And we know that when we have less of them, we have seasonal depression. I think it's absolutely scientific, but in a fun way. I like it. Like the
mhm,
sun time. Yeah. 15 minutes of like going around, even like taking one lap around your building, whatever building that you're living, or I don't know,
mhm,
take like 5 minutes of walks under sun, even that would be
mhm.
helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, shaking your hands even. If you can't even physically get off the couch because you're in a stuck freeze spot, shaking your hands, or get, even if you can get up, stand up, jump up and down a couple times. It's being able to just get our bodies in motion again. And once we can do that and doing one small task that is going to be healthy for our bodies, we're going to feel a little bit more motivated to do more.
Before our episode, I was going through like how the motivation works, like the chemistry of it. And I've heard that
Mhm.
even the thought of self-improvement helps us to, produce dopamine to get like done, get us to do
Why
something.
self-help books are so addicting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but even like still thinking that really helps us to boost the
Mhm.
dopamine too. Or maybe that's why like TED Talks, how they became very popular. Everybody wants to talk in them because it's like
Yeah.
inspirational.
Yeah. Kind of similar with that too, if you are struggling with making even decisions or struggling with low motivation, just choosing two small things that you could do in the day that will still support you. So if you're having a day where it's maybe super low motivation and maybe it's because of super low energy or you're really stressed, you didn't sleep well, still choosing just a couple things that you can do in the day to help support just your general well-being, like making sure you're drinking enough water in the day, making sure you're still taking your medication if that is something that you have, making sure you're just getting at least one good meal in you or taking a shower, and then just telling yourself everything else is a bonus. If you happen to do
Yeah,
anything else, great. Like I think a lot of times we put our too much pressure on ourselves too, especially if we're struggling with feeling really depressed on certain days where even getting out of bed can be really hard.
yeah.
Just giving ourselves permission that you don't need to be doing a billion and a half things to be supporting yourself. You can just do a little things, like even just taking a shower and brushing your teeth is okay.
Taking a shower definitely gets me be more productive too. Like some weekends I feel really low after an exhausting week, zero motivation
Mhm.
to organize anywhere because I feel exhausted. Number one thing to do, I think, yeah, that's with the sleep, there's like a stigma around it. I'm glad that it's changing because back then it was like, oh, we only need 6 hours of sleep, or Da Vinci was sleeping 4 hours between breaks or whatever. Like, well, we're not Da Vinci and we're living in a modern world right now. So try to make sure that you're getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep. 100% is important during the day so that the quality of the task that you do is, of course, improves for starters. Like sleep is one of the most important things that you can get. But with shower, I just wanted to say, like, on the days that if I start with shower, then I feel like for the rest of the day, it goes way more productive, even though I'm not feeling
Mhm.
like very productive
Well,
those
you're
days.
giving yourself that basic hygiene too,
Mhm.
right? So you're supporting yourself in that
100%.
way. Yeah, of,
Yeah.
like, the basic hygiene, and, like, that's good enough, like, even if we're struggling some days with, even getting out of bed, like, you don't need to compare yourself to other people as long as we're doing a couple things to still make sure that we're caring for you and yourself, like, that's okay, you're successful, you still did something that was good today, even if it was literally just taking a shower, and that's
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
That's fine. Some days are gonna be like that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it kinda goes along with the last point that we wanted to make was just separating shame from tasks and separating shame from goal setting and separating shame from everything in your life. Shame kills motivation faster than literally anything else. You are not lazy, you are not lacking willpower or things because of the things that, you might struggle with doing. It's not a character flaw. A
Mhm.
lot of times it's
Absolutely.
a capacity issue.
Yeah, I think sometimes people take it in a very, like, personal way sometimes when we can't achieve their goals too. And I like to say, like, this is not shows that you're not enough or whatever. This just tells me maybe the way you set your goal wasn't really appropriate for you. Like, you set it up without evaluating your personality well, and maybe there's a bit of, like, self-awareness work that you need to do about yourself. I mean, we all tend to think very highly of ourselves, and we have high expectations from ourselves, of course. You know, like, again, it goes back to this, like, very high, peak of motivation. Then you go to your, like, either therapist session or your dietitian session with, like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna lose this many pounds, and I'm gonna do exercise 5 or 6 days a week." I'm like, well, again, you didn't do this before, though. Are you sure you're gonna be able to do it? Like, clearly, your life doesn't allow you to do it right now. Like, you have a certain routine is established." And I think
Mhm,
breaking it down and, again, slowly introducing those kind of things and making sure that this is not because you're lazy or anything else, or you're lacking certain personal traits, like realizing that this is where you can start. This is where you can begin and start
mhm,
building things up on.
mhm. It kinda just reminds me of the concept of, like, shame is very much based on this idea that we are all on a ladder, a hierarchy, a
Mhm.
ladder of hierarchy with other people, and it's based on this idea that other people are better than you or other people are worse than you, and somehow you measure up to this,
We need
and
to
so
rank.
shame is very much on this, like, we have to compete with everybody else in some way or another, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to people, but that's not a place that you want to live. That's not a place that you're going to feel fulfilled in, because even if you did end up getting better than some people in that mind of, like, being on a hierarchy, a plane of a ladder,
Mhm.
there's still going to be people better than you with that mindset, right? If we can instead shift it and looking at a horizontal framework, so more everybody being on the same playing field, you no longer are basing your decisions off of comparison to other people or shame. Instead, you'll look at other people and go, wow, okay, so that works for you. Maybe I'll try that. And if it doesn't work for me, that's fine. I can find something else that works just as well for me. And I can also
Mhm.
celebrate in other people's wins. And I'm not going to feel like shamed because of the way that I'm doing it doesn't, the way that I
Mhm.
doing it is different from other people. It's what works for me, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's so individual.
Yeah. Stepping back from that ladder idea to it, even your evaluation of yourself in that, like, ladder is not exactly correct because we all have individual experiences. Even, like, before we begin to this, we were talking about, like, a little bit of the family dynamics when we were talking about, like, what we're going to bring it up and everything. And I thought about it. Even two siblings in the same family does not have similar experiences and similar opportunities when it comes to, our life.
Mhm,
Sometimes when you're the first child, you don't really get the same similar treatments as you would get with your younger siblings because your parents are not well experienced. They're younger.
you're the guinea pig.
Yeah, you're the guinea pig. They work on you first, and they do a lot more mistakes than, they did with your siblings at the end of the day, and it
Mhm,
affects you, of course, and sometimes it may affect the things that you might not be able to get on that specific day, like, or achieve on that specific day, but in the long run, it's your journey, and you're coming out of it with, different kind of characteristic features, and I think that also should be embraced and cherished too that makes
mhm,
you unique you with the experiences that you have. And yes, like, it's
Mhm.
on your hand to kinda, like, look at it from a different perspective of, like, "Oh, yeah, I've gone through so much because I was a guinea pig and they treat me poorly and this and that," kind of thing. No, I'm stronger because of my experiences, that's what I think, and then you have to respect that to my younger sibling, that's what I say. But anywho, like, jokes aside, it's your unique experience, and we're not similar to each other. We all take different
Mhm,
pathways, and it's important to recognize that we're only we can only compare ourselves with our previous version. Even that is not very objective. Because like,
mhm,
10 years ago, I was dependent on my family, and I was living under their roof, and right now, I'm an adult, and I'm taking care of myself. So, even that is not necessarily a correct
mhm,
comparison. So, yeah, I
mhm.
just wanted to throw it out there. Sometimes, yes, we're tend to compare ourselves to our peers, but we all have different journeys, and this is not coming from a very cringy place, you guys. We do. Even,
Yeah,
like, ask your sibling what do they feel about their parents compared to you, and you'll
yeah.
understand.
If there was one way of doing things, we would not have so many different professions out there helping
Yeah,
us navigate life and what works best for us. We're all so
absolutely.
independent. Yeah.
We're individual
So
flowers, you guys.
but that's all we got for you guys today on our tips for
Yes,
motivation. If you well, we want to thank you first for even listening to us today. If you
and
made it to
tips
the
for
end,
20.
thank you so much for putting up with us.
Appreciate you.
Um, please give us a like, thumbs up, follow if you like this content. We post every other week on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. We would love to hear comments. So if you have any of your own experiences with motivation, how to create it, how you sustain it, or any tips and tricks, please leave them below in comments. We love to read those things, and you never know, other people might see it too and find it just as useful. If you have ideas for future episodes too, feel free to leave us comments. We like to read
Absolutely.
things.
And we
But
wanna
thank
be
you.
a platform, yeah, we wanna be a platform that where, normal people share their normal experiences and they benefit from it in their life, and then they make progress in their life too. So if you have, some experiences, some tips and tricks too, yeah, I would love to see that and share it with my patients as well.
So thank you all for listening to us, and we hope to see you guys on the next episode.
See ya.
Bye.